Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. A very warm good morning to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. Also very happy Labor Day to all of you. It's the beginning of a new week and we are back here once again at 10 a.m. to analyze the day's Hindu newspaper. As always, every single day at 10 a.m. we are here for you to discuss some of the most important news stories from both the prelims and the mains examination point of view. I'm glad to see many of you join in right on time at 10 a.m. Good morning to everyone. Those who are wishing me good morning in the chat. A very good morning to all of you as well. Also, I hope that all of you have also been attending all the sessions of the Target Prelims 2023 that is going on the YouTube channel itself. It is in the evening from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. I hope you all have been keeping a track of this. The session that will be happening today will be the fourth session for Indian polity. As I said, this will be from 7:30 till 9:30, where a lot of important questions will be discussed. So make sure that you join in there for that as well. This is a complete schedule. By now, all of you would have already made a note of it. After Indian polity, we will be starting with environment and ecology. That will be followed by science and technology, international relations, government schemes, etc. So this is what we have for you lined up. Make sure you do join in for each and every one of these classes. Now coming back to our agenda for the day, this is the agenda for the day that we have. Also reminding you once again very importantly, and also thank you Vidhi for reminding me, we do not have Hindu analysis or the daily quiz tomorrow. Please remember, because the Hindu newspaper will not come tomorrow on the account of today being the Labor Day. So tomorrow we will not have CNA or the daily quiz. That is why the next time that we meet will be day after tomorrow. So please do make a note of that. So let's come back. These are the topics that we have here for you. From the mains examination point of view, we will be discussing about the Sustainable Development Goals and India's progress in these Sustainable Development Goals. Second topic is about the labor rights. This article is written because of today being the International Labor Day. So we'll be discussing what exactly is Labor Day, what is the problem about labor rights in India. The third topic will be about a refinery, that is a big oil refinery being set up in Maharashtra, and why is it that the locals are protesting against it. Fourth main topic will be about stray dogs and why is it connected to the problem of waste management in our urban areas. So these are from the mains point of view. Then from the prelims point of view, there are a couple of topics. Number one, very important discovery has been made about certain copper plates that have now brought back into focus the Chalukyan dynasty. And then we'll be talking about how India is strengthening its relationship with Maldives by supplying many more defense equipments to Maldives as well. This is the agenda for the day. Now, without waiting any further, let's start with the very first topic. The first topic that we have is about Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sure by now all of you know what are Sustainable Development Goals. These are a set of 17 goals that the nations around the world are trying to achieve by 2030. By now, all of you should know what these goals are and we'll be discussing about that. The author here is saying that unfortunately India's progress in most of these goals is not that great. There are a few parameters on which we are on track, but on most of the parameters India is lagging behind. And it is not just India. Actually, many international reports also point out that the progress that has been made by India in these goals and the achievement of these goals is unsatisfactory. And we'll be discussing some of those. The reason why we are saying this is not because we are criticizing the government. Prime Minister himself recently pointed out that we are not making fast progress when it comes to Sustainable Development Goals. The Prime Minister recently in his speech said that I am worried that our progress on Sustainable Development Goals is slowing down. India is on target in less than half of these Sustainable Development Goals. For example, what are the goals where we have made a lot of progress? Under 5 mortality rate has declined considerably. We are trying to achieve full vaccination for a lot of preventable diseases. We have improved sanitation. We have ensured electricity, water for everyone as much as possible in the last 5 years. However, there are a lot of districts still across the country where these goals have not been achieved. For example, what are the areas where we are still lagging? Number one, eliminating adolescent pregnancy, reducing MDI, that is multi-dimensional poverty, and women having bank accounts. This also needs to be done or focused upon by the government. There are some other things where we are still lagging. For example, improved water access, hand washing facilities respectively are all lagging here. I'll give you one more suggestion. Usually when you have these kind of questions, let's say there's a question asked in the mains examination about sustainable development goals. Now you don't just have to stick to these kind of informations. You can actually connect it to the other news. I'll give you a simple example. A few months back, the Chief Justice of India made a statement that infrastructure in the lower judiciary, that is, even if you look at the courts across the country, a lot of courts don't even have separate washroom for women. So how do you expect women clients, women lawyers, even women judges to come in the court? So you can directly connect it there. When you talk about sustainable development goals and you say that the government has not been able to ensure hand washing or improved water facility or sanitation facility, it even extends to the judiciary. Even in judiciary, even in the lower courts, as remarked by our Chief Justice of India, the facilities for sanitation, for washroom is not up to the mark. The author says that India has been very good in fighting against COVID-19 crisis. Now, there are some lessons that India can learn from this COVID-19 crisis. For example, first, India should have district-wise targets. If you remember, when the COVID-19 crisis was going on, we had district-wise targets. I'll remind you once again, when there were certain districts where vaccination rate was very low, where vaccination rate was not up to the mark, the Prime Minister himself actually took a meeting of all the DMs of this district to make sure that all these districts are called out. Apart from that, the other suggestion is learning from the COVID-19 crisis. India must put all this data on the public platform so that everyone knows what is our status in achieving different sustainable development goals. Which sustainable development goal have we achieved? How much are we lagging? So that there's a real-time progress that is measured. This is another suggestion. Third suggestion is that we should have a proper relief package, just like we introduced a relief package for COVID-19. Even here also, for achieving sustainable development goals, we should have a proper relief package. Only and only then we would be able to achieve these sustainable development goals. These are suggestions given by the author. I hope all of you understand, when you read an opinion page, when you read an editorial, there are suggestions given by the author. If you think these are good enough, you can incorporate that in your answers as well. This is what the suggestion is from the side of the author. Now, these are the sustainable development goals. Total 17. I hope all of you know what exactly are these goals, because you might need to quote them. No poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water. All these are sustainable development goals that the nations around the world want to achieve by 2030. Now, I also wanted to give you certain examples of what the government of India has done to ensure that these sustainable development goals are achieved in the required timeline. A few examples include the Manrega program. As you know, under the Manrega program, the government of India is providing jobs to unskilled laborers in the rural areas. That joins in to no poverty program of the government. So because government doesn't want any poverty, also this also joins into goal number 8, that is decent work and economic growth. So there are multiple government initiatives that can be connected directly to these sustainable development goals. Then we also have the National Food Security Act, under which the government is giving subsidized food grains. The government also runs the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. If you can see, can you tell me, looking at this, which is the goal that government is tying with the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? If you look at this from 1 to 17, which is the goal that government is actually connecting to in Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? Which number? 1 to 17. What do you think? Okay. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. It's pretty obvious if you just look at it. Yes. So there can be more than one always. First, obviously, clean water, sanitation, it's connected to it. Not just this, if you actually see even goal number 13 somewhere, climate change, fighting against that, that is also connected to it. All these are connected to multiple government initiatives that the government of India has been taking. Then we also have the government's program of pushing our energy generation towards renewable resources. We also have the Amrut mission, Atal mission for rejuvenation and urban transformation. All these are just a few examples of the government initiatives to achieve the sustainable development goals. Please do understand, these are not the only ones. If there is a question where you are asked about what are the different government initiatives taken for sustainable development goals, you can give a few of these examples, and if you want, and if you have data, you can give other examples as well. These are some of the few recent surveys that have come out. Lancet, that is a very famous science journal, they recently said, just a couple of months back, that India is likely to miss the deadline for at least half of sustainable development goal indicators. In fact, last year, Niti Aayog also said that we need to make district-wise and local targets to achieve sustainable development goal. Only and only then we would be able to achieve that. Lancet said that India especially is lagging behind in poverty, anemia, child marriage, domestic violence, etc. Tell me, what is the government's target to eliminate anemia, by the way? What is our target of eliminating anemia? Is there a target set by the government? Is there a specific year, or it's just random? What do you think? Pooja, India and World Sustainable Development Goals are the same. Okay. Many people are saying 2047. I'll not answer this question for you. Those who are writing 2047, I have a counter question for you. Are you thinking of anemia? Are you thinking of sickle cell anemia? Those who are writing 2047, are you connecting it to the sickle cell disease, or are you just talking about anemia? Just think about that, and you can Google and get to the answer. But do read about it, because Government of India has been focusing a lot on anemia. So this is a very, very important topic. I'll also give you some examples of how much progress has India made so far in just some of these. For example, the first goal, that is no poverty, India has made considerable progress, but the problem is when COVID-19 crisis hit India and other parts of the world as well, this poverty indicator took a hit. So although we were reducing poverty at a very fast speed, but when the COVID-19 lockdown took place, this poverty indicator was not that great. Then India has also been working on zero hunger through a lot of different programs. We have the National Food Security Act. We also provide food to the kids under the midday meal scheme. All of that is a part of this zero hunger. Then under good health and well-being also, Government of India has been focusing on establishing more primary healthcare clinics. We have been offering insurance such as the Ayushman Bharat scheme, etc. Quality education, Government of India has ensured that under Right to Education program, everyone gets access to education. And in gender equality also, the sex ratio has improved. These are just some of the examples of how India has been making progress in different sustainable development goals. This was our first topic for the day. Let me take up a few comments and questions from your end before I go on with the second topic. Abhishek is saying, more ironic thing is a Nagar Panchayat election in my town. Scheduled caste women, the seat is for scheduled caste women, but in pamphlet their husbands' photos are printed, not women candidates. See Abhishek, the responsibility of change depends upon you. If you make it a point that you will not vote for the candidate whose photo also is not on the pamphlet, then trust me, the candidate will change, and from next time onward they will start putting their photo. See, everything that a politician does is from the point of view of winnability or increasing the probability of winning. If they think that putting the photo of their husband will make them win more election, that is why they do that. So the responsibility of changing it lies on you, lies on the voters. Not great, but that is what happens. Kishan is saying, can an independent body for monitoring development and concern? Your question is hidden, Kishan. If you can just paste it again, maybe I'll take this. It's hidden in the chat. Mr. Dubey has a question. India population increasing will derail the SDG criteria. It's not increasing at a very fast speed. India's speed of population increase has declined considerably. So I won't say that this is because of our population, our sustainable development goals are derailing. But yes, having a lesser population would help, obviously. But I don't think that the speed of population increase now it's that high because of which the goals are not being achieved. Okay, Kishan is saying make an independent body for monitoring of development and concern about it. What they should address in the parliament and draw outlay for report from this independent body. See, understand this, the problem in India is never lack of laws. The problem in India is always about the problem with the implementation of the laws. There are tens and tens of bodies that have already been created for looking into development. What is a Niti Aayog for? Niti Aayog is for this only. What is the Finance Commission for? Somewhere down the line, all these bodies are made to ensure development only. So making one more body, I don't think is the answer to the problem of why are we not developing. It's always about implementation. And trust me, no government will make a body that is absolutely free of their control. Every government will make a body under their control. Bhargav is saying, what are the indicators of sustainable development goals? So Bhargav, if you look at all the 17 sustainable development goals, all of them have certain subsections. Those are called indicators. For example, goal is no hunger, but then under the definition of no hunger, there's a definition to it. That no hunger means these many percentage of people will not have any hunger, these many percentage of people will have these many calories. Those are called indicators. So there are proper definition of every goal, that is indicators. Then someone is saying, these goals are not binding. See, whatever UN does is never binding. It's not that if we don't achieve sustainable development goals, something will happen. And nothing like that will happen. It's just more like, if you want to really become a better country, if you want to really have your dreams of becoming a superpower, then you should achieve these goals. As simple as that. It's not that if we don't achieve these goals, something will happen or the world will say, oh, India is such a bad country. Nothing like that would happen. These are not binding. These are just indicators. It's kind of pushing you towards making the world a better place. Thank you, Tanya. Rahul, we will come to the Karnataka increasing hours topic in just a bit, don't worry. Okay, I'll take one or two more, then we'll go ahead. How can one as an officer ensure implementation of the already existing schemes? So, Kirti, when you become an officer, you will have a lot of powers. There are officers that do implement these schemes very well. That is why you see there are some cities or some districts that do better than others. For example, why is it that you keep on hearing that Indore, for example, is a very clean city? It's because the municipality of Indore has done very well. So officers do make a difference if they really want to. The problem with why officers don't make a difference in a lot of cases is, understand this, once you become an IAS officer, after that, there is no incentive for you to work harder. Understand this. Let's say you are an IAS officer, you come in your office at 10 and you leave at 5 and you do nothing else. You'll still get your salary. And then you're an IAS officer, you come at 8 a.m., you leave at 10 p.m., you work all through the day because you want to work harder, you will still get the same salary. There's nothing that would change. Not that because you're working for 12 hours a day, you will be made the cabinet secretary all of a sudden. So the problem is, once you become an officer, there is no incentive to work that hard. You are working very hard these days because you want to become an officer. But what after you become one? That is why a lot of officers don't really work that hard, because there is no incentive as such. And they will see someone else working just for half their time period and they are getting the same salary. No overtime. In fact, it's funny you asked this. Just a couple of days back, Supreme Court in fact gave a judgment in the paper. Supreme Court said specifically government officers do not deserve overtime. It was just a couple of days back in the newspaper. The heading was, Supreme Court says government officers don't deserve overtime. Means no extra money. You are owned by the government, or you will be owned by the government. Anyway, let's go ahead then. The next article that we have here is about labor rights. You know why this article has been written, because today is the World Labor Day and we are working. So on the occasion of the World Labor Day, there is an article about what are the labor rights. Why is India, or a lot of Indian states specifically, are going in the opposite direction? As someone also pointed out in the chat, in Karnataka, for example, we see that the government is thinking about increasing the number of hours for laborers. Now, in world history, when you read world history, you read about industrial revolution. You all would know that when industrial revolution first began, there was almost no limit on the number of hours the laborers had to work. Laborers were forced to work for 16 hours a day, even more than that, because there was no regulation. Not just this, the industrialists specially employed women, they specially employed children. Why? Because the children, due to their small size, could go into all these small areas and extract all these minerals by hand. So even the children were forced to work, even the women were forced to work for long hours. So there has been a long history of capitalists and the people who are running the industries to exploit laborers. The simple idea is, the lesser that you pay your laborers, the more profit you will earn. As simple as that. Just imagine if you're running a company and you don't have to pay any salary to your workers, automatically your profit will skyrocket. On the other hand, if you have to go and pay a salary to your workers, a high salary, then your profit will come down. It's a simple equation. And everyone who opens up a business opens it up to earn profit, as simple as that. So what has happened is that the author gives a history, a slight history of the labor rights. It was in Chicago on May 1st, 1886, that there was first major demonstration from the workers to have maximum of 8 hours workday. So the 8 hours workday that we have usually, it is because of that demonstration that took place in 1886. ILO then made it compulsory to have 48 hours a week and 8 hours a day as the maximum time that labor should work. If they are forced to work beyond that, they should be paid overtime and they should not be forced to work after that. If someone still wants to work after that, they should be paid overtime. That is what ILO has done. Now, the issue is, the problem remains that these kind of laws, a lot of them are just on paper. A lot of them have not been really implemented on the ground. And that applies to a lot of different sectors in India as well. And I'll tell you why has this been happening. When you have a country such as India, where the number of people looking for a job is much more than the number of people who are offering jobs, then you will always have this problem that the labor will be ready to work more than 8 hours. Let's take a simple example. Let's say that there are some people who are working for 8 hours a day. They are getting, let's assume, 30,000 rupees a month. Then someone comes in and says, I will work for 10 hours a day. Please give me this job. Same rate. Because there is so much poverty, there is so much unemployment that there is a lot of competition amongst the laborers themselves. And that is when countries such as India or other developing countries, you do see that laborers have to work for more than 8 hours. Now, as per the author, the problem started during COVID-19. In COVID-19, when the economic activity slowed down, several states wanted to again go on this path of better economic growth, and they started to amend their Factories Act, under which they increased the number of working hours. Tamil Nadu and Karnataka did it. They increased the number of working hours. When Tamil Nadu started to face a lot of protests, then the government was forced to hold on to this amendment. But there are other employers also in the private sector as well who are now giving a push to having more time or extracting more time from their labors. One of the other reasons is there is a feeling that we have to compete with other countries. In our neighborhood, for example, especially if you go to Bangladesh, Vietnam, etc., they have been competing against India. I'll give you an example. If you go and do some shopping in, let's say, H&M or Zara or whichever brand that you prefer, if you look at the tag of your cloth, you will see many times it will be written made in Bangladesh. Not just India. You go to the developed world also, you look at shirts, look at trousers, jackets, even the shoes, etc. that you look at of multinational companies, you will see that are made in Bangladesh. Because what has happened is, Bangladesh in the past few years has actually given a huge push to their apparels and garment industry. For Vietnam, electronics is doing the same thing. So there's a feeling in India that we should also do the same. But the problem is, in the name of development, can you force people to work the entire day? Just because you need development, does it make sense that you ask people to work for 16 hours a day, 15 hours a day? At the end of the day, the human body is not made to work for such long periods of time. People also need to give time to their family. People also need time for recuperation. All of these things have to be considered. On one hand, if you are saying that Bangladesh has given such a push to the garment industry, we should also know that the Bangladesh ranking for labor laws is one of the worst in the entire world. Recently, there was a global rights index launched under which Bangladesh ranked as amongst the 10 worst countries where labor rights are not guaranteed. So do you want to go towards that path? Just because you want to compete with them, just because as a country we want more GDP growth, does it make sense for people to then work 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day, just because as a country we want more GDP growth? That's not fair. At the end of the day, you have to ensure human development index. So human development index is not just about economic growth. It's also about standard of living. It's also about are the people getting enough leisure time or not. For the employers, they would obviously want people to work much more. For someone who's running the company, they would prefer you to work for the entire day, not even go home, remain there only. But that is not how the system should work. In any progressive society, in any society that respects the human beings, they need to ensure that human beings are taken well care of. In fact, you would have seen many countries are now shifting towards a 4-day week. Have you read that? Many countries are now trying to shift towards a 4-day work week. That now you can work for 4 days a week. There's no issue with that because that would be better. In fact, I'll tell you one more thing. In Japan, most of the companies in their offices have a sleeping room. And people are encouraged that in between your day, take a nap of 30 minutes. Take a nap for some time so that you can be refreshed and you can come back. That also happens in Japan. Now just imagine if in India, you actually make a room for that. No company will do that. No company will make a room for sleeping. No company will just make a room to take a nap. That is what happens in these countries. That is how developed countries and developing countries are different from each other. This is where we have to understand that economic growth cannot come at the cost of human development. It cannot come at the cost of standard of living as well. These are the challenges that we are facing right now. At one hand, we are chasing economic growth, the $5 trillion economy dream, but on the other hand, we are still not being able to provide for our labor. I also want to give you an example of a few labor reforms that were introduced in India recently. All of you would be aware. Before 2019, we had a lot of labor laws in the country. There were about 40 labor laws at the central government level and 100 at the state government level. Since there were a lot of laws overlapping with each other, the government of India decided to actually codify them, have just 4 labor codes so that everyone understands what are these labor laws. Because the problem is, the more number of labor laws that you have, the more difficult it is for every company to comply by that. So if you want to ensure ease of doing business would only be done or would only be possible if you have laws which are easy to interpret and easy to understand. That is why now we only have 4 labor codes: Code on Wages, Industrial Relations Code, Social Security Code, and Health and Working Conditions Code. These 4 codes now have been introduced to ensure that all these large number of central laws are now under these just 4 codes. There's another very interesting topic related to this from where you can expect question, that is the ILO, International Labour Organization. Now I'll tell you something very interesting about International Labour Organization. ILO was actually a part of League of Nations. You know what is League of Nations? You might have heard about this. Not the Justice League or not the Marvel Universe. What is League of Nations? Don't Google, please. You might have heard about this in world history, I'm sure. Okay, enough time for you to Google, now you can come back. Just like, not successor, predecessor. Not successor means that comes later. Predecessor means that comes before. So just like after World War II, the UN was formed. After World War I, there was an organization formed called the League of Nations. So League of Nations was an international organization, much like the UN, but it was formed after World War I. Do you know after World War I, when the League of Nations was formed, one of the organs of the League of Nations was the ILO. Now, League of Nations was a failure because of various reasons. But when UN was formed, ILO then became a part of UN. So in other words, if I say ILO is older than the United Nations, it is true. ILO is a part of UN, but it is older than the UN itself. That is absolutely true, because ILO was formed at the time of League of Nations itself. Now, ILO, when it was formed, India obviously is a member of the ILO. ILO also has an office in India. They make laws, they make regulations for the countries to follow for the labor rights. ILO has a lot of conventions, and now please do listen to this. ILO has a lot of important conventions. Out of this, ILO has 8 core conventions. ILO has 8 core conventions. These are the most important ones. Please remember, out of these 8, India has ratified 6. Out of these 8 conventions, India has ratified 6. So there are 2 core ILO conventions which India has not ratified. This is an important information that you must remember. These are the 6 that India has ratified: Forced Labor Convention, Abolition of Forced Labor, Equal Remuneration, Discrimination Convention, Minimum Age, and Child Labor. These 6 India has. What are the other 2 which India has not ratified? These are the 2. Right and freedom of association to organize, that is right to strike, right to form unions. This India has not ratified. And right to organize and collective bargaining convention. These 2 India has not ratified. The other 6 India has ratified. These 2 India has not ratified. Please do remember the numbers. This is number 87, which India has not ratified, and number 98, which India has not ratified so far. Other 6 we have, because we think that this will be against our right of the industrialist to run a proper business. This was our second topic for the day. Before we go on to the third one, again let me see what are the other questions. Ashu Singh, is Manrega helping to protect laws of labor? I won't say it's helping to protect laws of labor. It's giving you an economic opportunity. So you can say they are not forcing laborers to work under exploitative people and work under the government. If that is good, then that's fine. But Manrega, I won't say it's helping to protect labor laws as such. Fatima, yes, it applies to both. Kishan, I'm not able to understand your question. Colonial mindset isn't hindering what? I don't know what. Kirti Singh, India follows this even when there is right to form associations. No, so right to form association is separate. This is about labor unions and also the powers of the labor unions to bargain, to call a strike. As you know, to call a strike is not a fundamental right in India. Then, Rajkumar is saying, is Manrega really demand driven? Rajkumar, on paper it is demand driven. On ground it depends on area to area. On paper it is demand driven. To demand driven means if someone demands a job, they will get a job no matter what. The law says if the government can't give a job, they'll have to pay them the salary at least for 100 days in a year. Shanawaz, what about trickle-down effect? I'm not sure what you're exactly asking. Trickle-down effect in what? Then, Satyam, no, you are not. Please don't think that UPSC aspirants are doing majdoori. Running after your dream every single day is not force on anyone. You are here because you are chasing a dream. So you should not feel bad about yourself or anyone else that you are attending a class on a holiday. In fact, if you're attending a class on a holiday, that just shows that you care for your dream, as simple as that. So please don't feel bad about any aspirant or yourself when you have to watch a class on a holiday or on a Sunday. That is just how the dreams come, as simple as that. Shrikant, no, ILO is not American origin. ILO, as I said, came into being at the time of the League of Nations. Not sure why Manrega, questions are asked a lot. Okay, I'll take a few more questions. Kirti, yes, it's a holiday for some people, not a holiday for me, but don't worry, I'm fine. I enjoy taking this class. Is India, as India is not signing the right to association, we don't have right to strike in Article 19? Yes. Right to strike is not a fundamental right in India. You would have read that. Right to strike is not a fundamental right in India. Okay, then I'll take one more. Last question. Is 8-hour work limit binding? See, so these work limits, etc., 8 hours a day and 48 hours a week, this is binding. But then what happens is, after that, if you want your worker to work more, you have to pay them overtime. This is what the law is. Please listen to this very carefully. And I would appreciate if you don't copy paste your comment time and time again. It will force me to just block you. So try and not copy paste the same comment again and again. You are just hiding everyone else's comment. This is not the way that future bureaucrats have to behave. So as I said, if you actually see, the law is at 8 hours a day is where what you have to work. If you're forced to work more than that, then what happens is you are supposed to get overtime. You are supposed to get extra pay. But in reality, just understand what happens, okay? Let's assume that you are in a job in India and you are working for 8 hours a day. Now, after that, you are being asked to work for 2 more hours. Listen to this very carefully. You have worked for 8 hours. Now your employer says work for 2 hours more. Now what happens? Your employer says, but I will not give you extra money for that. Now tell me, what option do you have? If your employer says, I will not pay you extra for that, what option do you have? Would you leave your job? I don't think so. Would you say, I will go to the police against you? I don't think so. Because again, in a country such as India, where there are more jobs, there are more people who are looking for jobs than the number of jobs, even when you know you're right, you will not go to the police. You will not leave your job just because thinking, no, I will not take the job. That is the problem. So on paper, the laws are good. But when it comes to implementation, that is where the law becomes problematic. Because if you are being asked to work more hours, you will work more hours, because you know it's not that easy to leave this job and find some other job. As simple as that. Okay, let's go ahead then. The third topic that we have here is about an oil refinery project that is being set up in Maharashtra, and as expected, the locals are protesting against it. The idea is simple. Maharashtra government is planning, or has been planning for a long time, to set up an oil refinery. Now, oil refineries are very, very important. Please understand this. When we say we import oil from Saudi Arabia or we import oil from Russia, we are importing crude oil. So crude oil, when it comes to India, it has to be refined. You would have to take out different components of that oil. So for example, I'll give you an example. When you buy Vaseline, you would see Vaseline is petroleum jelly. Have you seen this? You buy Vaseline, it's called Vaseline petroleum jelly, because Vaseline also comes out from that crude oil only. So crude oil has a lot of different components. Propane, butane, gases, the petrol that you use, the diesel, kerosene also, these petroleum jellies, all of that is mixed up, and that is how you get this oil, this crude oil. So when crude oil is imported in India, it has to be refined. Now for that, oil refineries have to be set up. Oil refineries pollute to a very, very large extent. So no citizen or no resident would want an oil refinery nearby my house, because I know it will be a lot of pollution. But then the problem is, you have to decide. If an oil refinery will be set up, thousands of people will be given jobs. But do you want that job, or do you just not want any pollution? This is a choice that governments have to make. This is a choice that the residents also have to make. Residents over here in Maharashtra, in the Konkan region, have decided that no, we do not want this oil refinery. We are talking about the Ratnagiri district. In the Ratnagiri district, the locals are saying we do not want this oil refinery. Government is saying no, it will not pollute. But they demand that the oil refinery should be taken somewhere else. In Ratnagiri district, this oil refinery that is being set up, it will be the world's largest oil refinery. By the way, where is the world's largest oil refinery right now? Right now, where is the world's largest oil refinery? If this would be the world's largest, where is the one at present? What do you think? Please don't Google it, just ruins the fun of it. Don't Google. Digboy doesn't have oil refinery. Digboy is mainly for extracting gas. Okay. Those who know it, great. Those who don't know it, you can Google it and you can tell me in the comment section later on as a homework. But don't Google it right now. So this is supposed to be the world's largest oil refinery. Now, at present, India is already the second largest oil refiner in Asia and the fourth largest in the entire world. That is why you would have seen a lot of times India, if you look at India's import list and if you look at India's export list, you will see in import list also there is oil and in India's export list also there is oil. How is that possible? Because we import crude oil and then when we refine it, then we export this oil as well. So refined oil that we have refined, that becomes our export, and in the import there is the crude oil. This particular project is a joint collaboration between multiple partners. Saudi Aramco is the world's largest energy company. In fact, it is said that it is the world's most profitable company. Their records are not public. They tried to list themselves on a stock exchange a few years back, but they did not. But it is said that it is the world's most profitable company, making trillions and trillions of dollars, which is unimaginable. Then Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, Indian Oil and Bharat Petroleum along with Hindustan Petroleum. These five will together work on this project. But as expected, there is a lot of protest going on here. And the villagers say that this should be shifted other places. They say that our local cultivation will be harmed by this. That is why you see in the news, whenever you see this story that in China a flyover is built in 20 days. In China they have built a factory in 15 days. Do you know why? Because in China, when the government says that we want to take your land, you just have two options. Either you say yes or you go to jail. So pick whatever options you want. In India, when the government says that we want to take your land, you either say yes or you say, no, I will not give you land. And then when you say no, this process then goes on and on and on. This is the problem. So in India, it's not that easy to acquire land and set up these kind of projects. It is in the Konkan region that we have large mango orchards. We have cashew plantations. All of these, as per the locals, will be harmed if we do not shift this refinery somewhere else. Government, on the other hand, says it's important for employment because it will help India have much more oil reserves. It will also help people of the region to have more employment opportunities. Now, this is the problem where you can't say that one is right and the other is wrong. Because see, both sides have their own points of view. For the government, when they ask for vote, they will ask for vote saying that, see, I gave you so many jobs, so give me the vote. So for the government, it is their point of view. For the people, their point of view is that, no, we want to preserve our environment. I'll give you one other example. Have you heard of this project called BBIN? Have you heard of this project, BBIN? BBIN, as you might have heard, again, please don't Google. Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal. So it's supposed to be a highway to connect the four. Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal. What happened was a few months back, Bhutan said, we don't want to be a part of it. Bhutan said, no, you go ahead. Why? Because Bhutan said, we don't want so many trucks entering our country. We are happy with lesser economic development. We just want to save our environment. So Bhutan as a country made this decision that for us, our environment is much more important for us. We don't want that much development. So these kind of decisions are taken by different countries depending upon what their priorities are. For India right now, in an economic situation that we are, the government's priority is to give more jobs. But for other countries, the priorities are different. This is the refinery we are talking about. The name is Barsu. So Barsu is the area exactly where the refinery is being set up. It's a part of the Ratnagiri district where this will be set up. It's supposed to be the country's largest. Now there is one other part of the story which you cannot write in the examination, but I'll tell you why you actually see this in the news. Don't write this in the exam, but there is one more part. The other part of the story is Ratnagiri the place that you're talking about, is a place where Shiv Sena gets a lot of votes. The Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena. They used to get a lot of votes in Ratnagiri. Now what has happened is, it is said that maybe the new Shiv Sena or the Shiv Sena of the new chief minister that we have, Eknath Shinde, they want to impress the local people, get them more jobs so that they move away from the Thackeray Shiv Sena and give them the votes. This is a political side of this story. But again, we are not concerned with that. For our point of view, environment and economy is the major debate. Also, these are the different refineries that we have across the country. This is an older map. It's a 2018 map. That is why you see the Jammu Kashmir has been seen as one. It's an older map, but don't worry, the location of refineries is perfect. So if you can see, these are the refineries that we have set up. We have many oil refineries in India in different parts of the country. As you can see, do you see something very interesting on this map? Can you tell me a pattern about which is common in most of these? Any idea? Look at the map very carefully. Tell me if there's a pattern that you see here. Is there something common? Yes, Kirti. Yes, Tharun, Mr. Dubey. Yes, most of you have identified the pattern is coastal areas. Coastal areas. So most of these, as you can see, are coastal areas situated. Why is that so? Most of these are coastal areas. Why exactly is that? Yes, so the idea is, see, the refineries use or need crude oil. Crude oil is coming in from outside the country. So it will come via ship. The ship will land here and then the refining will start. So that you don't have to transport it time and time again. Because if the ship comes in here, you already have the oil. Why do you want to transport all of this here or here and then start refining? No. So it's easy transportation near to the port. That is how it usually helps. So not just India, most of the countries that you will see that import oil, most of their oil refineries are in the coastal areas only, and the same is the case with India as well. There is one more thing that was in the news, by the way, a few years back. Do you know India and many other countries also have something called strategic petroleum reserves? Do you know that? India and many other countries have something called the strategic petroleum reserve. Do you know what is this? So this is government storing petrol for the future if we need it. So government has these huge storage facilities where we store petrol. Why? All of a sudden, if let's assume that there is a country or the oil producing countries all of a sudden decide to increase their oil prices and we don't have that much money. So for that, we should have at least certain petroleum reserves. We should have at least certain petroleum reserves to ensure that if there is a shock in the supply chain, we are able to manage that. I have a homework for you today. Again, the homework is you have to tell me India has petroleum reserves for how many days and what is our target. What is our target? What do we want to achieve? How many days of petroleum reserve do we want? And also how many days of petroleum reserve do we have already? Do search about this. This is important because India is trying to increase that. And tell me, why is India increasing that? Is there a specific reason? Is there a specific reason why we are increasing that? Because there is a reason India wants to become a member of a certain group and you actually have to get that qualification criteria. Search about that. Let me know in the comment section after the video ends. The next topic that we have is about stray dogs and their connection with urban waste management. In the past few days, we have had a lot of articles about stray dogs. We have discussed many of these stray dogs articles, in fact, in the CNA as well. So in this topic today, I will not go into the detail of stray dog. The stray dogs issue we have discussed a lot. We have discussed about the rabies as well. We have discussed about the laws that we have about stray dogs in India. All of that is done. Today we want to focus more upon waste management problem. So the article says that if you see, why is it that India has a problem of stray dogs? It is directly connected to the problem of poor waste management. There are big cities in India where you see mountains and mountains of waste. If you actually see, Delhi, for example, is infamous for these mountains of waste. And it's very ironic. Do you know these are called landfills? These are called landfills. What is the meaning of a landfill? Landfill means that you put your waste under the land. That is called landfill. And in Delhi, you see mountains of these waste. So these are not landfills anymore, but they are still called landfills. You are not filling the land. You are just actually putting it on top of each other. They have become huge mountains. Do you know, a few years back, there were some people who died because they were going near, because they are near the road only. So there were some people who were just driving near the road on a bike, and all this mountain of waste actually fell on them and the people died. Do you know that? And you can't even imagine the kind of death. You don't imagine that you are going on the road and you will die because a waste will fall on you. This is the situation where we are living. And that happened in Delhi, in the national capital. That is why all these problems are connected. As per the author, because we have a habit of putting food waste and other types of waste everywhere, that is why the dogs surround that place, and that is why the dogs actually become a big problem. So as per the author, if we get rid of this waste management issue, we will automatically be able to get rid of the dogs issue. There is a strong connection between the two. Wherever the dogs find food continuously, they think that this is our home and we will get our food here, and that is why they come up here time and time again. We discussed earlier as well how, as per many people, the estimates of dog population in India, remember we discussed 6.2 crores. That is the estimate as per many people. Although the official government census says it is not that much, but many people, many reports say it's over 6 crore, that is the population of dogs. Now, if you look at the waste management in India, India has just not been able to get enough food. For example, as per 2021 UN Environment Program report, that is UNEP, about 931 million tons of food was available to customers, which ended up in different types of garbage bins. You know, we waste a lot of food. Either perfectly cooked food is wasted, or you just leave over your food and that goes to the waste. All these different types of food that go to the dustbin, it is an invitation to the dog. On an average, remember this fact, on an average, Indian homes produce 50 kg of food waste per person. 50 kg of food waste per person is produced. The government's official numbers are, as per the livestock census, that dog population in India is just 1.5 crore. That is the government's estimate. But then there are other reports from private authorities that have come in that it is over 6 crores, which we have discussed earlier as well. We discussed the dog problem, that just because you are vaccinating the dogs doesn't mean that they will stop attacking. Because there are two types of problems with dogs. One, they can bite, that can cause rabies. Other, they chase bikes and cars, they attack people, that causes accidents as well. We also discussed how dog attacks are the second biggest cause of road accidents in India so far. All of that can be collected if we ensure that the waste management facilities are taken care of. But it's not that easy. See, when you have huge population as we have in India, the population brings with itself a lot of problems. One of the big problems that we have with our population is the amount of waste that is generated. Just see the dustbin that we have, the community dustbin, your household dustbin, the waste that we produce, all of that has to be taken care of. The waste recycling facilities that we have across the country are very few. Much of the waste that we produce is just not reprocessed. There is one other problem. In most of the cities in India, when we just give away waste to municipal workers, we don't segregate it. We just give the waste in one single dustbin. Waste segregation also has to happen at the source. This is also a part of the problem. Add to that the other types of waste that we actually have, no segregation, no proper facility of recycling the waste, no proper handling. Even the people who are actually collecting the waste, they don't have gloves. The municipalities usually don't even get protective instrument to those people who are working in this part, and that is why it becomes a problem. If you actually see the states where waste is taken and recycled, you will see there are certain states where zero waste is recycled, zero. There are official numbers. Arunachal Pradesh, the waste processing facility that Arunachal Pradesh has is 0%. Dadar Nagar Haveli, 0% waste is processed. Zero. They have zero waste recycling facility in the entire state. Jammu Kashmir, only 1% waste is recycled. Jharkhand 2%, Odisha 2%, Bihar 3%. Just imagine when entire state doesn't have even one waste recycling plant, then where will the waste go? The waste doesn't just disappear. For example, if you take waste out of your house, throw away far away from your house, then yes, at least your house doesn't have waste, but the waste is not going anywhere. You have thrown somewhere else. The problem will then again start. All these are problems that still exist. This is an infographic that tells you a lot about the different types of waste. You can download the PDF and then you can read about it. Where exactly is our waste going? How does it work? Those who are lovers of Uttar Pradesh, who are searching where Uttar Pradesh is, don't worry. This is not the entire list. Top 10 states and bottom 10 states. So be happy. UP is not doing the best, but UP is not doing the worst also. So it's somewhere between top 10 and least and the bottom 10. This is why the UP name is missing, but don't worry, it does exist. Okay, now we have a couple of news from the prelims point of view. Let me take up a few comments from your end and then we'll go ahead. Kishan is saying we can learn from Sweden. See, the problem is we can learn from many countries, but then Sweden is not India. They don't have the kind of population that India has. So when you talk about waste and waste recycling, learning from any country is easy, but give Sweden the population of India and then ask them, now you tell me how to process waste. So waste is something that we can learn from Israel as well, we can learn from other countries as well, but it's not that easy because the population makes it very, very difficult. Tech evil, stray dogs, street dogs, they are the same. The official name is stray dogs. There is no name as such street dog. You can call them stray dogs, they won't mind, don't worry. You can call your dog as by whatever name that you want. The one that is outside your home, you can call him street dog, stray dog, whatever you want. Official name is stray dog. Abhishek is saying, is Manrega also a big issue because in village sarpanch, panchayat mitra, money gets divided into them? Abhishek, no. So now most of the Manrega money is going into the bank account of the workers and not in cash. When it used to be distributed cash, there was a big problem of commission being distributed, but now it's going mostly into the account. I am not suggesting Manrega is a perfect kind of a law, but yes, it has improved over the years. What percentage of total income is set aside for waste management? Total income of whom? I'm not sure what you're asking. Total income of whom? My total income, your total income, whose total income? Satyam is saying how to strike a balance between economic growth and environment. Satyam, it's not that easy to answer. See, when you are poor, I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you are poor. Let's say there are people who don't have anything to eat and you give them an option. Do you want to eat, do you want to have food or you just want clean air? What do you want? Just imagine. And you can get your answer. A poor person, a hungry person, what would a hungry person want? Food or clean air? And you get your answer. What is more important? So, it doesn't matter how much we talk about it. The reality is that you can only talk about environment and clean energy once your stomach is full, once your basic needs are fulfilled, only then you can then talk about environment. That is a harsh reality and we have to understand that. Okay, let's go ahead then. There are two other stories remaining from prelims point of view. One story that we have is from history. It's not usual that you get many important news stories from history or art and culture, so these are important. Please do understand this. So researchers at Pune's Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute have given very important information about a copper seal that now is confirmed to belong to the Badami Chalukyan leaders. Now, what exactly is this seal all about? How is it important? What do you have to remember? Now, please remember, according to these researchers, they already had many copper plates. They have been trying to see who does the copper plate belong to, who was the person who had written all these things on the copper plate. They have now identified that this copper plate actually contains details about a very famous ruler or a very famous personality, that is Shilabhattarika. Now, who was Shilabhattarika? Shilabhattarika was a very famous Sanskrit poetess and more famous as the daughter of the Chalukyan emperor Pulakeshin II. All of you would have heard of Pulakeshin II. Pulakeshin II's daughter, this is Shilabhattarika, one of the very famous Sanskrit poetess of her time. Information about her has been given on this copper seal. This copper seal is said to be of the Badami Chalukyan rulers because it has their official seal. They had the Varaha seal that has been found here. This discovery has been done by Pune's Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute. They have said that it gives information about Shilabhattarika, who is a very well-known Sanskrit poetess of ancient India. She was a daughter of Pulakeshin II of Badami. These kind of questions are asked in the prelims examination, so please do remember this information. She was very famous because at that time most of the poets were male. She was one of the very few female poetess of her time. Also, this same copper seal has information about other people of that era as well. For example, Sanskrit poet critic Rajashekhara, who was also the court poet of Gurjara Pratiharas, he has also praised her for her writings in the past. The copper plates that have now been deciphered, they are about 5 copper plates in total, and all of them have the official seal of the Badami Chalukyas, that is the Varaha seal. This is where, as you know, the Chalukyan Empire had ruled, so they had a huge area under them. Please remember, whenever these kind of dynasties come in the news, number one, whatever is the news is important. Also, you get a lot of questions about the chronology of different dynasties. So make sure that you have a chronology prepared. There you can remember which dynasty came first, which dynasty came later. All these are important. Also, when you say the Chalukyas, there are different Chalukyas that you refer to. Total of 3 Chalukyas, there are the Badami Chalukyas, the Eastern Chalukyas and the Western Chalukyas. They had different areas under their control and they existed at different points of time. This particular dynasty that is being referred to in this article, these are the Badami Chalukyas. So please remember, we are talking about them. The Eastern Chalukyas were different and the Western Chalukyas were also different. Okay. The last article that we have here is about India's collaboration with Maldives. As you know, with Maldives, India has been trying to increase its collaboration, mainly supplying a lot of defense equipments for their coastal requirement. Now, our defense minister has decided that we will hand over fast patrol vessel and also a landing craft to Maldives as a gift. Now, Maldives is an extremely important country for us. It's very close to India geographically. It's also a partner of India in a lot of regional organizations. They also are important for the security purposes. We have held Maldives multiple times in the past. I would suggest, if you don't know, please do read about Operation Cactus. Operation Cactus was an operation from the Indian military to help Maldives, where Maldives was facing a it was facing a coup, where the Maldives government was forcefully being removed. They were militant that had entered the country. They were capturing the government organizations or government offices. India had launched Operation Cactus to ensure that countries such as Maldives actually remains safe. We have also held Maldives in many other classes, in many other different types of issues as well. Whenever they have any natural disaster, India is usually the first responder. In the past also, India has supplied a lot of different equipments. We have also been an investment partner in Maldives. For example, we have about 6.74 long bridge in Maldives that India is making. India has also ensured that infrastructure such as airport and infrastructure to connect multiple islands of Maldives is being made by India. This is where Maldives is. Many people confuse Maldives and Mauritius. Please do not do that. Mauritius is much farther than India. It is towards south. Maldives is much, much closer to India geographically and also very close to Sri Lanka as well. Also, as we can imagine, Maldives has a lot of significance for India. Apart from the fact that celebrities just keep on going there for holidays and you keep on seeing their photos, it is also extremely important for various reasons. There is huge Chinese presence also in Maldives, but the good part is the current president is much more in India's favor. Maldives has had a history of military ruling over Maldives. The earlier government in Maldives before 2017 was a government that was much more in favor of China. In fact, Maldives just a few years back had changed the law allowing foreigners to buy land in Maldives. That was done specially so that China can buy an island of Maldives. You know that? China now owns some islands in Maldives. That was mainly because Maldives had changed the law allowing foreigners to own islands. That was done by previous government where government of India did not really have great relations. But now the present president, Mr. Soli, with whom India has much, much better relationship. That is why in the past 5 years or so, India has been ensuring that relationship with Maldives becomes much, much better. We have already supplied a lot of different types of equipments for their coastal needs, especially because as an island nation, it is important for them to have enough equipment at their coastline. This brings us to the end of the class. There are a couple of practice questions for you as always. I hope you learned some new things today. Do read about the stuff that I told you about. Do comment also. What did you read about India's petroleum reserves? How many days of reserves do we have? How much are we aiming for? And what is the reason behind it specifically? And also reminding you once again, tomorrow we do not have CNA or daily quiz. We will now meet you day after tomorrow, same time at 10 a.m. But we do have the target prelims 2023 today and tomorrow every single day. Don't forget to join us for that. Thank you so much. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.